On June 24, 1948, amid a dispute with Allied powers, the Soviet Union blocked access to Berlin's western sector, cutting off that part of the city from any outside supplies. In response, the Western Allies organized a massive operation to transport supplies for more than 2 million people by air. The crisis, which lasted almost 11 months, became known as the Berlin Blockade, and the solution as the Berlin Airlift. After World War II ended in May 1945, the victorious Allied powers agreed to divide Germany into 4 occupation zones, administered by the military forces of Great Britain, France, the United States, and the Soviet Union. The capital of Germany, Berlin, was divided in a similar way, although the city was entirely contained within the Soviet zone of occupation. The Allies had a completely different vision of Germany's future role in Europe, and the first conflicts with the Soviet Union quickly started to arise. The situation escalated after talks about currency reform, intended to help restore the German economy, led nowhere. In response, on June 24, 1948, the Soviets blocked all road, rail, and water connections to the western sector used by the Allies and announced they would not supply that part of the city with food or electricity. At that time, Berliners in the western sector had enough food to last 36 days and enough coal for 45 days. The Soviets believed the Western powers would have no other option but to abandon the city. But that's not what the Allies chose to do. On June 26, 1948, the first aircraft carrying supplies landed at Berlin's Tempelhof Airport, using one of the 3 air corridors that had previously been agreed. To keep 2 million Berliners from starving or freezing to death, planes had to offload 1,500 tons of food and 3,500 tons of coal and fuel every day, meaning there was approximately 1 plane landing every minute. To keep up the tight schedule, planes flew at 5 different altitudes, and there was a limit of 30 minutes for unloading supplies. Runways had to be quickly repaired between landings. Basic supplies were not the only things delivered to Berlin, however. Colonel Gail Halvorsen became known as the Berlin Candy Bomber after he started dropping boxes of candy attached to handkerchiefs. As the number of children waiting for chocolates increased, candy makers from all over the U.S. began contributing sweets. In the end, more than 3 tons of candy were dropped over Berlin. The Allies even managed to supply the western sector during what was a tough winter. The tonnage of supplies exceeded the amount previously brought by rail. The Soviets finally lifted the blockade after almost 11 months on May 12, 1949. In the end, 101 people died, most in plane crashes, during the Allied air effort to keep Berliners alive.